Hello. Are you sure you could get the slides up? I don't have to try to get the slides up. Okay.
All right, we will go ahead and get started here with our next session. First of all, I am completely out of water here after those first two sessions. Thank you very much to David and to Mike both for some really challenging, encouraging content. And what we want to do in this session is focus on a particular scenario of teaching, and that is teaching to an online audience. As you recall, a few years ago, there was this small disruption referred to as the global pandemic of COVID. And from that point on, it kind of changed our emphasis as far as how we engage with people online, folks that are not physically in the room with us. Before COVID, we would stream our worship services. We would stream Sunday from the auditorium, and we had a company, a platform we used called Sunday Streams that was really good, except for on Sundays. And so we really poor business model and title. It's not just to degrade them, but we switched to Facebook, and we're pretty pleased with Facebook. And then in March of 2020, everybody streamed to Facebook. And if you remember, those first few weeks were pretty hectic, and Facebook would drop a lot of the things that we were doing because so many folks were turning there. So then we expanded to YouTube. So now the two places that we stream, anytime we stream, are Facebook and YouTube. Facebook is the Madison Church of Christ. It's a public page. So you go to the Madison Church of Christ public page that has our little green icon there. And then YouTube, same thing, our channel on YouTube. Those are the two social media streaming sites that we do. And we'll get into some of the reasons specifically why we do that here this afternoon. First question we have, why do we stream? Why are we streaming our content? Why are we putting it out there online? Well, currently, as of this morning, we have 1,100 subscribers to our YouTube channel. We have 3,500 Facebook followers that follow our public Facebook page. Specifically during COVID, around about that time, we had 3 or 4 folks that tuned in every single time we streamed from different parts of the country. One was Miss Altman, who would tune in every week, and she would always comment, Eric's mom, and we got to know her a lot better. But there's a fellow by the name of Jake Friesen, and he resides currently in Canada. They were to the east there. He's from Saskatchewan, Canada. And Jake shares everything that we put out. Jake and I have become friends on Facebook. Jake shares everything I post on my personal page. Working on reining that one in a little bit. Canada knows when my son hits a home run now, not a T-ball. But Jake is a big friend of Madison and does a wonderful job of taking what we put out there and shares it with his people, with the folks that are in his circle of the world. And that's the great thing that we can do to leverage specifically Facebook as well as YouTube. YouTube is the second largest search engine on the planet behind only Google. So that's a big deal. And that was part of the discussion early on when we decided to stream was, well, why YouTube? There's a lot of stuff out there we don't like about YouTube, and that is true. But everyone goes to YouTube, right? If you want to fix something, some small plumbing at your house, where do you go? You go to YouTube. If you want to, if you got to figure out how to do anything, really, where do you go? YouTube. You figure out how to live stream on YouTube, you go to YouTube. And so we're on YouTube. And as a result, we have gained quite a few followers and subscribers along the way. There have been a few bumps through that process. Of course, with every new adaptation of technology, that's going to be the case. But right now, I think we're at a pretty good place. We also have several ministers in Africa that access us through Facebook every single week. I get a message or 5 from several different folks that are all throughout the continent of Africa. Several of the folks, the congregations where Barry Smith travels specifically, will find us on Facebook and be able to tune in. And they're always encouraging. They're always asking for prayers and offering encouragement as well. So it's a wonderful way to network. And there is a negative side to social media. There is a negative side, of course, to the internet in general. But there's a tremendous opportunity to leverage spreading the gospel. The Great Commission, Jesus said, go into all the world, teach them the gospel. Well, now we can quite literally stream to every single continent simultaneously without ever leaving our facility or even leaving our homes at times. And so that is the opportunity and the potential that we try to leverage. Formerly, we would exclusively stream from the auditorium. Auditorium has everything we need right there in the AV booth. It's relatively simple for somebody to come in and click a couple buttons and we're good to go. We've got multiple cameras we can use no matter where the teacher is standing. However, if you've ever taught from the auditorium or if you've ever tuned in for an auditorium class, it's not the greatest experience on the other end of the camera, the person at home. And that's something that we want to focus on today. But there are 4 main things here. What does streaming do? It increases our reach. We can go beyond anywhere we've ever gone. One of the goals of a Bible class teacher, as well as our preachers, is whatever we talk about in this building is to take it beyond this building. And one of the things that limits us to that is just being in one geographic location. We expand our reach exponentially when we stream. We grow the kingdom by doing that. It brings in new families. We actually have had several new families that have come here and have mentioned specifically they saw their friends and their friends' sons that were doing the invitation on Wednesday night. They saw it streamed online. And they were drawn to that. They said, I want that opportunity for my kids to be able to grow and to be mentored and to have those opportunities to serve. And so that's one way that people have come here. We have a family that moved here this week. They moved to Madison because of the church at Madison. They watched us online before they ever set foot through the door. People visit our website before it's our digital foyer. Before they ever set foot on our campus or on our facility here, they're looking at us online. They're looking to see what the worship experience is like. They're looking to find out a little bit about who we are. So it's a wonderful opportunity for us to really show who we are in a very natural way, because we're going to worship every week. We're going to study the Bible every week. We just allow other people to join us in that. And so we want to be more effective as Bible class teachers so that we can be more effective connecting the church as well as growing the kingdom. This was, as of this morning, here's some data from YouTube. This is before Brandon's sermon, so I'm sure his sermon will be top of the list of all of these things. But right now it's Andrew, because I did it before Brandon was straight. But over the last 48 hours, the last 2 days, just on YouTube, we had 12 people that watched the Andrew's sermon from last week. We had 5 that watched the Be Happy class, which is our Wednesday night. Danny Holmes, a.k.a. Danny Sellers. Sorry about that. I pulled my part. Devotional last Wednesday had 5. 2016 VBS Noah's Ark recap. 3 people viewed that. Made for Monday, from April 24th, 3 people. Bible Teacher Workshop promo video, 3 people viewed that. Our history of Madison through the years, 3 folks viewed that. Worship, Diana singing both of those 2 worship. Appreciate with my mom. And then the last one there was another worship. It's just the last 2 days. So people are coming to our YouTube channel all the time, and they're getting just a variety of content that they're looking for. We have a couple of podcasts that we've taken from our classes as well as from our sermons, and we put those out there. People are searching, and they're finding Madison Church of Christ, and they're finding gospel content every single day. So this is an important thing for us to do, to be able to stream, and to not just stream, but stream effectively. I'm finishing up a graduate degree, and I'm in my last class, which ends actually next week, and it's Old Testament course. And we have probably 3 or 4 lectures every week that we have to watch online, and then every other week we meet together and stream, a Facebook or a Zoom meeting. The online lectures are done by a gentleman that's different than the guy that leads the discussion on the Zooms. The gentleman that leads the Zooms is dynamic and is excited. The other gentleman, at some point, had to have been a librarian. With all due respect to the librarian arts, sorry. Simply the volume of his voice. His intellect and everything else is on par. But there's a fan going in the background. The camera's right here, a little fuzzy. Whatever his notes are, apparently are over here, because this is where he's looking. So as we move into the middle of the video, we find that the Old Testament times. I'm done in about 30 seconds. Engaging is not even a part of the conversation. He doesn't make eye contact. It's a lot of content. He knows his stuff. He's not real passionate. But when we get together for our Zooms, this guy, man, I'm telling you, he is a fantastic Old Testament teacher because he's excited. He tells the story with passion and with energy, and he's looking right at the camera. And I can see all other 25 or 30 of my classmates, but I usually end up just watching him because he's easy to watch, right? He's easy to listen to. He's easy to engage with because he's actually engaged back with me. One of the hardest things to do, and we found this out when we pre-recorded worship during COVID, was looking at that little circle right there on the tripod. It's very unnatural, especially when there's a room of people that are looking at me, for me to look at that camera. But the people that aren't in this room, that are going to go back and watch this in days and weeks down the road, they're going to appreciate that I'm looking directly at them because it's an audience of one. Right? When the camera's in the room, you think in terms of that is one human at least, but probably dozens, if not hundreds or thousands. We want to continue to grow our reach, and in order to do that, we have to also think in terms of engaging an online audience. So I have a couple of things here that I would recommend. The very first one is simply eye contact. The best illustration of this is the illustration for everything, The Office, right? Meet my eyeline, Jim. When Dwight is talking to Jim Halpert and Jim is just staring at his forehead, Jim says, "No, I'm looking right at you." Leo, is this comfortable right now? As we're talking and I'm looking not quite at your eyes, is it unsettling at all? Hello? All right, good deal. You can pick me up, so I'm going to move on real quick. When someone is talking to you, but they're doing this number, it is not effective for connection, right? If we're teaching, we got to remember that we're not just teaching the people in the room. When we're done teaching the people in the room, that's over. But the people that are online that will come afterwards, they're going to see that every time they watch that, you're teaching them. So it's important as you're teaching in a classroom setting to at least glance for a moment and make eye contact at the camera the same way you make eye contact with the people in the classroom. If you don't ever make eye contact, you're not going to be effective as a teacher. Not nearly as effective as you think you're going to be, and not nearly as effective as you can be, because people want connection. They're here to learn and to listen, but they're also here for relationship. And we talked about that in our first couple of sessions. So number one, keep my eye line, Jim. Eye contact is very important. Number two is engage the online audience. One of the reasons why we try to move away from the auditorium into a classroom is because, for instance, this setting is a little bit more comfortable. We're coaching. We're in closer proximity to each other. It's a better classroom environment. More people are likely to engage. In the auditorium, when we're spread out, if someone does engage, ask a question, it's very difficult to get to them quickly and in a way that doesn't disrupt the flow of the class so that people can hear what they said. In a classroom setting, that's facilitated a lot easier. So as we're talking, look at the camera. Anyone online, if you have anything that you'd like to contribute, we would certainly love to hear from you. Those of you that are here right now, if you would turn right back, there's a gentleman in a yellow shirt sitting at that computer. His name is Marcus Teskey. He's become one of my best friends because he is oftentimes the one that's running the stream in the classroom. Right now, we're streaming from room 206A. I think it's a really good balance in that classroom. It's a larger classroom, one of the larger ones we have, but it's not so overwhelming that you kind of get lost. And specifically, if someone in the back talks, and this little microphone that I have, I'll kind of come their way a little bit. So as they're talking, this microphone will pick up some of what they're saying. That's helpful for people at home. If it doesn't pick them up, if Norm is talking, I don't have to repeat what he says. But if Cam or Kevin are talking, I will probably, after they ask their question, restate the question so that the people at home hear it from the microphone, so that they're a part of the discussion. And I know these things are really, really small details, but they make a huge difference. There's another Michael Scott quote. He says, "I love inside jokes. I hope one day to be a part of them." Have you ever been on the outside of the joke? Or you're standing around talking with friends and they're talking about an experience they had that you were not a part of, and they're laughing, they're all about it, and you're just like, it don't sound super, all right? It feels like you're an outsider. We don't want people to feel like outsiders when it comes to Bible study, especially when they're a part of the Madison family. We want them to learn about the Madison family. So these really small, seemingly insignificant, are actually really, really, really big things that you can do to enhance the online experience. Don't think in terms of you as the teacher. Don't think in terms of the people in the classroom. Think in terms of if you're sitting at home because you can't make it to Bible study today, how would you like to be engaged? How would you like to be addressed and to be made to feel like you were also a part of the conversation? I chose two really, really awkward photographs of myself, especially that one, looks like I need to go to the restroom. But this illustrates a different point. During COVID, we did, like I said before, we pre-recorded worship, right? So Mike set at one of the high boy table there. We zoomed in. We actually had a couple of different camera angles we could use. The camera was pretty close. The background was blown out. It was nice and all, fun. From the tech geek side, it was great. I love it. It's beautiful. Everything I would do with me. When we came back to worship, people were like, hey, I really like that proximity. So now we actually have a camera that's, a couple hundred feet away. It's just a very different experience, right? Also, Andrew and Brandon, are like Usain Bolt up there. So it's a different tracking system. But what people missed was the connectivity. Because again, when we were pre-recording, Mike was looking in one direction. He was looking at the audience of one, which was all of us at home. It's different when there are people in the room. We have got to always think also about the people that are not in the room, but the people that will be watching this probably more often. People that are coming back at different times. These videos, as far as I'm concerned, are going to sit out there in perpetuity. They'll be out there for as long as YouTube will allow. And their algorithm will continue to change, and there's a chance that new people, Christians and non-Christians alike, will stumble across the kingdom classes that we offer, the gospel teaching that we put out every single week. And that's one thing that the church was uniquely suited for this new digital age. There are very few organizations that put out public content as frequently and often as a church. Have you ever thought about that? If you go back and you look, even before COVID, we streamed everything in the auditorium. We stream our Wednesday night devotions, right? We stream our Wednesday night classes. We stream our Sunday morning worships. There's a time when we stream both worships. We streamed anything. And we are constantly trying to put content out there because there are constantly people seeking to know more about God. I use this illustration, or these two images, to illustrate the fact that one was a class when, because of weather, we didn't meet, and so I pre-recorded it, and it was sent out for our Wednesday night Bible study. There was no one else in the room with me. And so the whole time, I'm looking right at the camera. The other one was when I was in the auditorium. And it's just a really unfortunate angle for those of us that have no kind of baldness. But we have to get over that because our cameras are up here and we teach them down here. So there's a lot of things that make that less visually appealing. And let's face it, when it comes to streaming, some of it does have to do with appealing, and not just the physical human, but what it looks like. We are all conditioned now to view a lot of things online. And so social media is a different thing. Our kids, they don't need anything that looks technical or anything that looks professional. They want something that looks like it was done on their phone, to send all their friends. That's not necessarily this type of content. If people are going to sit down and watch a lecture for more than 2 minutes, then they want it to look and to sound pretty good. And part of that is because now the bar has been raised across the board. Because now you can stream and you can record with your DSLR camera, which is a consumer-end camera. It used to be high-end and only the professionals. But the bar has been elevated and we've all been raised with it. The floor has been elevated, I guess. The ceiling is still pretty high. But the problem here, the challenge here is that when we put stuff out for an online audience, we want to keep them in mind and make it as visually appealing and audio-wise as appealing as possible. I mentioned this earlier, repeat classroom comments. This is important. If you can't hear, then it's worthless, right? If it looks really good, but you can't understand it, you can't hear it ain't great. I can't read lips very well. Now we do have closed captioning that helps a lot, but if our audio is not quite working, or if someone speaks in the back and you just go right into it, you go on to the next comment without actually addressing it for the online class, and the people at home, they miss out. And they're on the outside looking in. Again, this is Danny Sellers, aka Danny Holmes, from last week's class. This is the current view that we have from room 206A. The camera sits in the very back, so it's fairly unobtrusive for most of the people. If you don't want to be seen on camera, then get there early and don't sit on the first two chairs on either side of the aisle. But we have this particular camera focal length because if we go a little bit wider, then the teacher seems a lot further back. And it's a lot more distance. The more distance you have, the less engaging it is, just like we talked about from the auditorium. So we have this particular focal length. We're working on trying to just make it look a little bit more kempt. It looks a little scraggly with all the cables and wires and stuff. And I know that's all just aesthetics. But again, it makes a difference when you're online. If you're teaching in 206 or if you're teaching in a classroom that we're going to be streaming, to echo what Mike said, it's important to have slides. If you have slides, we will put them online for you. We have one of the beauties of the way we stream is a different software that we use for the classroom. We can use your entire PowerPoint. We can import that in, and as you click, we can click along with you, Marcus, myself, whomever's working the stream. The other beauty of this is that when someone comments on Facebook or YouTube, it pops up in this software, and we see every comment. And so we have a couple of our ladies in particular on Wednesday nights that frequently will, even if it's just to say hello, we'll splash that up at the bottom of the stream in the lower thirds, and they'll have their comment. Or if someone has a question, we'll stop class. Our job, Marcus and I, is in that moment. If someone asks a question, we want to pause as though we're acting on behalf of that person. Hey, someone online has this question or this comment to say, and that way they feel like they are truly a part of the class. I don't know if you, just quick show of hands, in the last 3 years, who here has been on a Zoom call? Okay, we're going to go with 100%. After about 3 or 4 weeks, Zoom, yay or nay? Positive, negative, like it, dislike it. All right, I got one in the back, Ryan Elizabeth, just because he's trying to be difficult. He loves it. Everybody else like fatigue, right? Zoom is great. Facebook's great, all these, but they do have a fatigue factor. And if you're never actually engaged with, if you're never actually looked at, if you're never actually called upon when you try to engage with the conversation, you will quickly lose your audience online. We're trying to cultivate an audience. We're not trying to alienate an audience. So this is important to remember. This is your perspective. I'll try to give you, if you're new to that class, this is how far left to right you can go before you walk out of frame. But we try to use this because it gets the slides there so you can see what's going on. We'll also put your slides up so they see just that content. When it comes to creating a slide, if we're not able to put it up, you see here, they use the dark background with light letters. That's very helpful, or vice versa. If it's a light background, it needs to be dark letters. Before we had this software, all we used was this monitor. And so if you did anything under probably like 50 font size, it was basically, it looked like Greek and Hebrew, right? It was very, very difficult to read. So thankfully we have new software now that helps with some of that. Post teasers. This is one that I recommend. I got a really weird sense of humor, and if you've known me for any amount of time, you probably picked up on that. Here are a couple of things that I used. I did the Galatians class here in the Echo Room a couple of years ago, actually in 2021 there. I said, what does the movie Shawshank Redemption have to do with the book of Galatians? Tonight at 6:30, I'll explain why I call it the Shawshank Epistle. Morgan Freeman, Tim Robbins, and a Bible study. It's going to be fun. I had 14 comments on that, and that one showed one share. I had about 50 text messages before and after this class of people saying, I got to know. To which I would reply, all right, it's like roughly minute 6. Here's the link. Go watch it. 47 people gave it a thumbs up, some kind of engagement. 14 people had a comment right here. This is what I just used recently on parables. On Sunday nights, we're studying through the parables of Jesus. If Biggie Smalls wrote a song about Benedict Arnold, it would be tonight's parable. Any guesses? Same thing. Bunch of text messages randomly. Had 23 comments. Had some shares on that one. It's weird. I get it. But it's also kind of engaging, and people want to know. Most of the time, my older friends would text me and say, hey, what is a Biggie Smalls? So that was also fun. To me, this is a fun way to engage. It also challenges me to come up with a modern day application or connection with the content that I'm going to be teaching about. And if you got, okay, let me back up. So maybe Biggie Smalls is not the best place for us to be prepared for Bible study, but you know what, maybe it is. Because I've got a lot of random personalities that I'm friends with on Facebook. And something historical and something that involves 90s hip hop actually touches a pretty good number of that audience. So think in terms of the people that you know online. When I do this, sometimes it's not even for the people here. It's for people that never, ever will step foot in this building. It's for people that will never be in Madison, Alabama. It's for people that I went to high school with, for people that I knew in elementary school. To get them thinking, what in the world? The parable of Jesus? Napoleon? Biggie? So just something kind of interesting. Whatever your personality is, leverage your social platform to be interesting. Colin Coward is a sports commentator, and I used to be on ESPN, now he's for Fox Sports. And what I really liked about Colin was he he was an interesting guy. He'd always take a different perspective on things. But one of the things he always says, like the New York Knicks, for instance, even if you're not good, just be interesting. We've got the good news. We can also be interesting in a way that people have not looked at the good news before. So framing it from different angles, framing it using your circle of influence is a very natural, easy way to do that. And then lastly, let's take here is follow-up after class. This is the one where I referenced Jake earlier. We've had several conversations over the years about various things. When his mother was sick, we talked a little bit about that and prayed about that. You can follow up with your audience. That Galatians class, there was one random week. I don't know if it just got caught in the wrong algorithm or what, but it had over 1,200 views. There was a guy from, I think it was South Carolina, that emailed me a week after that one was posted and had a series of questions about the gospel. And we conversed back and forth for a few weeks. Random guy. Never in a million years would I have intentionally run across him or he me. But because of a video we put out in a Bible class, we ended up having a full Bible study together. So truly, the opportunities are endless. Follow-up after class is important. After you teach a class, go back and look. Even if somebody didn't comment during class, again, these videos are out there constantly. People are constantly viewing them and commenting on them. See if there's a comment. Even if someone just said hello, you reach out to them as the teacher and you engage with them, that puts a whole nother level of importance and value on that person, that the teacher actually reached out to. You make them feel heard and seen, and there's nothing more important for a person than to feel heard and seen. So this is a way that we can touch them on an emotional level as well as spiritually. This is just a quick view from YouTube Studio. So this was actually during Brandon's sermon. I did pay attention, but I wanted to show you here 75 concurrent viewers. Concurrent viewers are the number of people that are simultaneously at that moment that are watching and tuning in on YouTube. Typically, the YouTube to Facebook ratio, if we have 75, then we'll have anywhere from 15 to 25 on Facebook. YouTube gets a lot more viewers. Part of the reason, who has a smart TV at their house? Who has the YouTube app on smart TV? The access is just super easy, right? Not everybody has Facebook, not everybody likes Facebook, but most people have really easy access to YouTube. And that's one thing we found during the pandemic is when we started, Facebook was up here, YouTube was here, and then it just kept growing. Facebook kind of stayed where it was. But if you look over here, top chat in this rectangle, nothing. If you look at Facebook, and it says it's green, the leaves are. All right here, there's always going to be comments on Facebook. But our current viewers were 15. So we get fewer viewers on Facebook, but we get a lot more engagement. Why is that? Because it's super easy to share. A lot of people are already there, and it's really easy to comment. It's more of a natural platform for people to comment on. So that's why we choose those two platforms, and that's why we continue to use them even beyond 2020. Mike had mentioned slides and slide creation. The emphasis of my lesson was to be specifically engaging an online audience. We're going to get to these here in just a second. Before we shift to slide creation, any questions about specifically the online nature of our streaming? Yes, sir.
If you were using, say, a snippet of a TV show, just Andrew Griffith, for example, to drive home a point,
Yes.
are there any copyright laws or any limitations on what you can actually use?
Yes. What we have had in the past is we'll usually get flagged by YouTube. We get flagged by YouTube every 4 or 5 weeks because of the songs that we sing. We have all the CCL copyright licensing. We're totally fine doing that. But they usually flag us. We don't monetize. And because we don't monetize, they typically don't take any videos off. We've never, to my knowledge, had a video taken off. When it comes to YouTube clips and things like that, copyright law is a weird, sometimes vague place to be. We have not yet had someone take our videos down because of that. And because we're not monetizing, I don't think that there's an aggressive push for that. So far, when people use a snippet, and we're not talking like a 10-minute thing, but for instance, when we showed The Chosen specifically released rights to churches to stream their content when they came out. And so that was kind of a unique one. Not all companies do, not all studios do that. But I don't want this to sound shady, but so far we've not been shut down for any of that. And if it's used for a snippet and it's used for a teaching purpose, then there doesn't seem to be an aggressive push to take that down. So currently I would say you're free to do that. I've done that myself just a time or two using different video clips from YouTube. Yes, sir.
You mentioned that after class, go back and check out the comments. How do you know that there's a comment?
So if you go back to, let's see, nope, spoilers, the other way. Now we're stuck, Mike, what happened? Press the wrong button.
Back arrow,
Ah! There
forward
we go.
arrow to go forward, back arrow to go back.
There you go. Oh, and there's that. But I'm still not there. Let's see, just trying to think if I had this on the screenshot. No, I didn't. When you go and you search for a video, or when you watch a video on Facebook, it will have over here on the side, is this still, there you go. Right over here, you'll see. So when you pull up, this is not a video, obviously, this is an image. But on the side, you'll see the caption for what we put there for that day to caption that particular class. And you go down, there's like, comment, and share. And then the comments will be listed there on the side. And you can engage if you have a Facebook profile. If you don't have a Facebook profile, you won't be able to do that. I believe it's the same for YouTube. You have to have your own, not subscription, you have to have your own profile to be able to engage. Good question. Yes, Cam.
So for 206, are you planning to, is there any thought to outfit that with mics?
There's been some discussion to do some drop mics throughout to pick up the audience. Right now, this live mic has done a decent job, but we're looking at that if we end up having budget money this year, most likely next year. I know we've done that CYP classroom before. Yes, sir. Dave?
I was going to ask about, we've had some more people asking about whether the VR class could be streamed every Wednesday night.
Mhm.
And there is a large number of individuals from their family members of the VR men to other individuals wanting to watch that. The actual camera that Beto had, that he utilized, it's not a Zoom, but it's just strictly for a stream like that. Is that something that could be, I mean, is that a viable, because it's just a matter of getting it all set up,
Right.
each week.
Yeah. The challenge typically that we have is that our whole building is multi-purpose. It's setting to take down, but that is a very small, it's a Vivo camera, it's a 4K, strictly a streaming camera, and that would be probably a really easy solution. It doesn't have a big footprint, and I think Beto sets it up back here so that you can get the audience as well as get the screen in the shot. So that would be a very easy way. There's also an adapter that you can have to plug from your soundboard directly into that, so it should be able to get, you have one audio source in that board that gets also the drop mics as well as the teacher. Yeah, we can definitely work on that for sure. Anybody else?
Quick question.
Yes, sir.
Is there any thought of doing, I know that you've labeled like 206A is normally a Christian living type class in there. Is there any thought of doing a textual and a Christian living that would branch out and maybe do 2 classrooms?
So currently, we can't stream two things simultaneously. You have to get to a certain amount of subscribers to have that capability. So right now, for this quarter, we were streaming 206A, the Be Happy class. We've also been recording a Baker's class from the auditorium, which was a textual Seeing Jesus in the Old Testament. So once the quarter is done, we'll upload all of those as well, and they'll be on our channel. We just haven't been able to get them each week as we go. It's been a wacky quarter. But the plan is in the next 2 weeks to have those loaded. So they'll be there, just not in real time necessarily. I can't remember if it's 100,000 subscribers or what it is. There's some benchmark on YouTube where you can have 2 simultaneous streams, but right now we're not there. YouTube sets certain parameters and certain rewards for the size of your channel, and getting to 1,000 was a big deal. That was one of my goals for us last year, was to get to that plateau. Now we can stream from a mobile device if we want to. We get some other things with our URL, as well as a lot of analytics and information that we now have access to that we didn't when we were just in the hundreds. So that's a good thing. We also have the largest number of subscribers for any Madison Church of Christ that's on YouTube, which is just a big being in my product for me. I don't know. Anything else? Any other questions about streaming? If you've taught in a class that has been streamed, what has been the biggest challenge for you, if any?
Singing.
What's that?
Singing.
Singing? Okay.
You gotta sing at the same time.
You cannot sing at the same time?
It's too much echoing, it's too much.
background noise, is everybody wants to see.
I got you, yeah.
It's kind of monologue.
Yeah. It's more of a solo than anything, yeah. Don't sit close to the mic if you don't want to be on for the singing. Anything else?
I think that's, since you said trying to connect to camera.
Yeah. It's a foreign thing, and I do think that's the biggest roadblock.
Face.
We'll do that. We'll get one of those fat heads and put them over the camera. But I do think it's important for us to imagine a face there, right? To imagine that there are potentially dozens, hundreds, or thousands of people that we can, if that makes you nervous, then there's one person sitting there, okay? Whatever number you're comfortable with. But it is very important to at least glance and to make some kind of acknowledgement of the camera. It just makes a big difference when you're on the other side of it, as far as the connection. Yes, sir.
I haven't done that, but I managed to freeze up and tell them that it's long context.
Yeah,
I mean, people in the audience, not here to that.
yeah.
And try to sum that up and continue with your class at the same time.
It is difficult. It's as a teacher, you're constantly trying to think one step ahead of how am I going to transition to my next point? How do I shut this person down? Or how do I get them to elaborate? There's a lot going on there. So that to me, it is an acquired skill that I feel like I'm constantly trying to attain. I'm not always perfect with it, but I do think the first step is for us to be aware of that. But that's a very good point. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes you just have to move on. But yeah, as best we can. Any other questions? Comments? Yes. We have some that you would recommend? Yeah, they're starting to gain some steam. Mm-hmm. You know, Discord is one that I've kind of considered. A lot of gamers use Discord. We've not really talked about it as a Bible class streaming platform, but it's very possible because there are so many people on. That's right. Yeah, especially the emerging generations. It's really hard to keep up sometimes, but some of the platforms that are coming out can be really, really useful for our purposes as far as growing the kingdom and finding people in places that we ordinarily wouldn't. Think of it in terms of almost going to the mall to find a random Bible study with somebody. Most likely you wouldn't run into somebody otherwise, but if you go out to the mall back in the 90s, then you could find all kinds of people that you ordinarily wouldn't find set foot into a church building. So the internet, Discord, other platforms give us access to a different group of people. And so we'll continue to look to expand that. Anyone else? All right, we'll get to this next session here. Let's do the next. Yes, sir.
Is there a way to control on YouTube what they feed you? You know, like for example, I notice sometimes you'll go out and you'll watch Madison Church of Christ Sunday morning lesson, then they'll turn around and they'll feed you a link that has nothing to do with Church of Christ stuff.
Yes, there are some extensions. If you go to Center for Humane Tech, Center for Humane Technology, I think it's .org, they actually have, they're the people that created The Social Dilemma, the documentary that was on Netflix. If you haven't watched that yet, I highly recommend it. It's going to be a big part of what we talk about in the fall. But there they have some Chrome extensions that will actually eliminate the suggested feed in YouTube. And so you basically have to have, you have a link that you go to watch your video, and that's all you're supposed to. It shuts down everything else. There's another one that I have online that I cannot remember the name of. I'll find that out and let you know. But what it does is it filters the feed. So it is either strictly about the subject I'm looking for, or it's directly from that channel. So it's not a whole bunch of other things. So those are a couple of ways. The best one is to get the extension that then eliminates the suggested feed. Most of the videos that we record and post to YouTube, we will go in and we can edit it when we upload it to take away any suggested videos, or what I usually try to do is make the suggested videos our videos. So it just exclusively recommends Madison content. Anybody else? All right. How can we make better slides? There's a PDF that Mike shared with me that I would be happy to send to you all as well. It's a very lengthy presentation, but it's very good. It gives a lot of really good examples as well as illustrations and encouragement on how to create effective slides. I took some of the bullet points from that, and those are the ones that we're going to look at here. Be mindful of screen size. Almost all of our screens now are 16 by 9. So 4 by 3 slides that are more square in nature, they'll still fit. They'll have a nice little box rectangle on either side. And so I would highly recommend, if you haven't already, switch over to 16 by 9. And if you do, right now, all the algorithms are veering towards vertical video content. YouTube, what does YouTube call them? They're shorts, YouTube shorts. Instagram stories, Snapchat, all vertical video is kind of where it's at. So we're also going to be pushing, try to get some more content like from our sermon snippets and even Bible classes where we have vertical content. Vertical is just 9:16. So it's still the same ratio, it's just flipped vertical versus horizontal. So as you're making your slides, think in terms of your television at home, which is most likely 16:9. Use color and contrast, as I mentioned before. I got a dark background and brighter colored text. Think in terms, and this is not exclusively for what you're doing online, but think in terms of what classroom you're going to be in. If you're going to be in the echo room and you're using this projector or any projector, it's going to wash out. What you see here is very different than if we had our 75 or 72-inch TV. It'd be very sharp, very crisp. Thinking in the auditorium this morning, some of the black background with the white text, that was kind of hard for me to see because it's so sharp in there. So think in terms of where you are, think in terms of what would be the best, the most readable. Because when it comes to slides, the goal is readability, not distraction. Keep slide count to a minimum. This one says roughly 8 slides per 10 minutes or 16 slides per 20 minutes for an oral presentation. That's a lot of math to me. To me, it's be efficient with what you use is my goal. I don't want to be beholden to 35 slides. I want to use them as my prompt to know what my next talking point is. I use that sort of as my outline, as my talking points, but I keep those simple because if someone's reading this slide like half of you are right now, then you're not actually listening to me. You can't. Despite our best efforts and our own thinking, we're actually not good at multitasking. We're not designed to multitask like that. So if you want somebody to see something on the slide, in my mind, what's on the slide is so if they can't hear me, they know a general idea of where I'm at in the lesson, what I'm talking about. But I don't want it to be all of my speech. If it's going to be a lot of text, it's probably going to be a passage that we'll read together so that I'm not fighting for their attention. And those of you that teach for a living, those of you that do presentations for a living, you see this all the time at work as well. Use sans serif fonts. Sans serifs are the ones without the little hats on the top and the bottom. They're typically less formal fonts. Those are they're easier to read when you have a lot of different, like the real squiggly ones or anything that's not crisp, it's harder to read. Align text left or right. If you center text, it's really difficult because our eyes are trained to look for a hard edge and a natural edge for them. When they finish a line, they go back to that same spot where they started. And if it's centered, then they're coming to the middle. So if you do anything centered, make it be just 2 or 3 lines, make it be real big and bold. And the last one there, keep words to a minimum. Type should be well spaced in size 30 to 36 font. For headings, at least 24 for body copy. Right now, going back, I spoiled the surprise earlier, but as I'm talking about slides, I've not mentioned anything about flying pigs. So probably what's going on, at least subconsciously, is how do flying pigs fit in with Jason's presentation? They don't. It's simply a distraction. So images that don't actually tie in with what you're talking about could be a distraction. Slides that don't tie in with what you're talking about could be a distraction. Also, really tiny, difficult to read font can be a huge distraction. So this is simply to illustrate the point that when you create a slide, whether it's for online or for people in the room, think in terms of readability, think in terms of scalability. It may look great on your laptop. But chances are, once it gets on whatever monitor it's going to be on, it's going to look a bit different, either washed out, like in here on a projector, or the color could be a little bit off. So get to class early. Go ahead and hook up your laptop. Make sure all your fonts transfer correctly. I would recommend not putting a lot of time and effort into transitions, making them fancy, because that's, again, another distraction. If you're trying to move from one point to the next, you just want to get to the next point. You don't want to then be your own worst enemy when it comes to presenting content. All right, any other questions or comments with regards to putting together a presentation or specifically engaging with an online audience? Yes, sir.
So you mentioned PowerPoint, so is that what everybody uses? Because it seems like last summer you were pointing and it was, well, it's like, what is that? I don't, so what does this congregation do?
If you're teaching in a classroom, all of our classrooms have HDMI, either to a projector or to a monitor. And so if you bring your laptop or your tablet, it's whatever you want to build it in. That's perfectly, it's totally up to you. We don't have a set standard. If you're in the auditorium, we're going to ask you to convert your PowerPoint to JPEGs because that's how we're pushing it. So all of your transitions and all of your animations, they go away anyway. It's flat images. But if you're in a classroom setting, pardon me, we leave that up to you, whatever you're comfortable with, if it's Mac or Microsoft, we're not gonna judge you one way or the other. Some people will maybe, but no, you use whatever is comfortable and native to you, and as long as it has an HDMI plug, we don't provide a device, but we will provide the HDMI input for you.
So for those Macs, you're gonna need the adapter.
You will need, yes.
Maybe it was Madison, but I think it was you too. I mean, they were pointing.
So that's what-
I'd be on, online down here.
Yeah.
They would like, well, I was like, what is that?
So this is not one of the fancy ones, is it? But we use it in the auditorium. I know Brandon and Andrew used it often, especially with maps, and it has a magnifying glass that zooms in on part of that. That has nothing to do with the software. That has everything to do with our control.
Right.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Okay. I thought Richard Todd there was talking about the software itself.
Oh, gotcha.
Well, that was my first question.
Environment, like that Prezi, that
Right, Prezi, yeah, so Kyle used Prezi. That may be what you're talking about, where it does zoom in and out and does these, yeah, so that's Prezi, Prezi. It is a competitor to PowerPoint, and it's a presentation software, and it's very powerful, it's very visually engaging. You can zoom in and out. Basically, you have this massive, infinite artboard that you work with, and then you put things where you want, and then you can, instead of transition from slide 1 to slide 2, you transition from a destination A to destination B. So if you want to zoom in and make it smaller, make it bigger, zoom out, you can do that. There's a free version that you can play around with. They also have paid versions as well.
But that would be on me
Yes, sir.
to purchase or use if I was so soon.
Correct.
And then the only thing I'll add to that is if teachers give us the presentation for us to archive and use for future teachers, we want it in a PDF. We don't want to make a teacher have software they don't have, and the most common thing would be a PDF that we want to do.
Yeah, so if you do a Prezi, we'd also like you to make it into some kind of PDF format. I don't know if they export or not, the PDF. All right, Wayne?
I'd like to recommend the book Slideology by Nancy Duarte. She's one of the leading experts on this. I read it 10 years ago, and it changed my life.
Correct. Slideology by Nancy Duarte. If you'll notice, I repeated into the microphone what was said in the class. Yes, very good. Slideology, Nancy Duarte. Thank you for the recommendation. Anybody else? Any other recommendations? Things that you've seen, especially in the workplace? A lot of the things that if you're in education in particular, constantly learning new ways to communicate. We're always open to learning as well in the education committee. We would really covet your input and your encouragement in that area as well. So if you have any other suggestions, yes.
Yeah, I was just thinking about too, how in our audience, there's all different types of learners. And our learners are more and more becoming visual learners. And so any opportunity, if you're using the illustration to put a picture up, it can really just grab their attention and help make that point. It's a simple thing, but giving them that visual.
What's interesting is when they preach, typically what my kids remember is what they saw. Right, if there's an image of something, when we did Encounters with Jesus, those images, not just the videos, but just images up there. Anytime there's a photo of something or an illustration of something, that sticks a lot more than text. So think in terms of visual communication. We're not getting less visual by any means. So it's a great point. Anything else?
one thing I'll say to that, so I launched some software that had 3 commercial benefits. When I found when I was at a conference, if I put an image of a hand with 3 fingers, then put each benefit on a finger, they remembered it much more than if I just gave them a list of the 3 key benefits, right? So if you want to make sure they take the point, like those 3 pillars, we could have put a word, and it just seems for some reason when they see that visual picture, they remember those points much better than if they just see them.
Very good. Thank you guys for being here. Mike is going to transition us to our next section here. I think Kraig will share some information with you.
my house, we call it a whoosher. All right, I don't know why it says double tap to add subtitle, but there you go. You'll be okay. I wanna take just a minute, on behalf of the Education Committee and the eldership, to thank all of you for being here tonight. It's a testament to the willingness of the congregation for people to come out on a Sunday afternoon and spend 3 hours talking about this subject. So I want to thank you for your participation, for your interest. And I want to make the point that it's very important that we have people who are willing to teach, because what we teach is so important. The content that we have, the word that God gave us is so important to people's lives. So what you're doing here, what you're engaging in here, is going to make a difference. It's going to make a difference in people's lives. And the great benefit, I believe, is that one day, somebody that you taught, you'll see them in heaven, and they will be able to point to you and say, you know, you made a difference in my life. So what you're doing is very, very, very important here. We're going to talk just briefly here to kind of wind us up about more of the logistical part of the education program here for adults at Madison. Look at some survey results, education plan, just kind of a couple of broad topics here for us to look at. As Mike mentioned now, you know, that Mike Baker is a geek thing, that's true. And you probably know that, but he along with the rest of the guys, and we'll put some names up here for you in a minute, have made a big difference in the education committee because of their abilities to put this kind of information together. And so this Connect group that you're a part of, the survey that he talked about earlier, had 111 responses, and you can see the breakdown against the different Connect groups there. These are individuals that responded to that. So class format, 111 responses. As Mike pointed out earlier, lectures with slides and discussions with slides were the big winners there. If you have pure lecture, not a big draw, right? So it enhances this idea about the idea that you have slides. Now, the interesting thing, at least to me, about that is when you combine that with discussion, it gives you a good way to lead that discussion. You can put the slide questions, or put the questions for the various topics, as David was mentioning earlier, on the slides and engage people, because they get to read the question. They don't have to necessarily hear you ask the question. If they miss it for somebody, like somebody drops a phone, you know, you hear something and, sorry about that. But the idea is that it puts it on there so you can engage and you can lead that discussion and kind of make it go in the way that it needs to, so that people get a benefit of the class, and it's not just a bunch of random, unrelated comments. All right, and then you can see from there, there's not all these numbers add up to 100%, right? So there were people that were picking multiple things, but you can see what people were interested in and their format preferences there. All right, and then the survey results we talked about for the class topics. I think somebody mentioned earlier, we want to hear the things about the difficult topics, but then no one said what the difficult topics are. Okay, so there's a list of things here. It's interesting that we have, I guess this is the pointer, maybe. I don't know where it goes. There it is. Christian evidences is one that comes up a lot. And so we got people here that can do those kinds of things. A big one these days is this idea of marriage, okay? How to have successful marriages is an important thing. And so you see kind of the things that people are looking for here. It is interesting. It's kind of funny is that we've done surveys like this in the past, and we've had people put things down, and they say, "I want to hear about this," and then they said, "Well, we just finished that," you know. So, but these things will come around again and again as you go through time. All right, so education committee. These are the names that are here, and I want highlight Mike and Robbie Jones sitting over here, Michael Manasco, and then where's, let's see. Yeah, I guess that's the new guys there. All right. These guys have come along with a recent addition of deacons that we have, and have made a huge difference in that. So I want to thank them for their efforts, especially in putting this thing together, is because it takes a lot of work to do this. I want to, if you have things that you want to talk to them about, talk to any of us about, please come see us. Okay, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, how you can make your request known. All right, so as Mike said earlier, we've kind of transitioned a little bit. We're trying to make improvements to how we set the classes up. Of course, we use connect groups on Sunday evening, and then more of a, I'll say, cafeteria style setup on Wednesday nights with the classes. But what we've been doing for the past 3 years is we started out with what we call a 4-year plan, trying to make it through the Bible and have opportunities for topical type discussions or topical type classes in the midst of all those textual classes. So we try to have a mix of those things. You may have noticed that one quarter we'd have a textual study and the next a topical, okay? And so the idea is still there, but we're actually transitioning to a 5-year plan because what we were seeing is that we were having trouble getting everything in to the classes that we wanted to do. And then the other thing is that Mike mentioned earlier, we're transitioning to more of a theme-based curriculum. And if you look at the sheets that you got that Mike passed out, you'll see the plan, the 5-year plan there, and you'll see that rather than specific classes necessarily on different topics, the topics are a little bit more broad there. And the idea is that with our connect groups in particular, if you have a class, if you want to do a class on marriage, well, that's applicable to a lot of classes. If you want to do a class on parenting, the scope is a little more limited. And so the idea is by having a little bit broader theme, say on Christian relationships, then you can have a quarter that talks about the general broad topic of Christian relationships, and then each class can tailor that to the student profile there to make that more meaningful, more applicable to the students in the class. So as you're teaching these different classes, make sure, as you've heard already today, that you're focused upon what does my student body look like? What is the makeup of the class? And how does the general theme that we're talking about for that quarter, how does that relate to them? And then tailor your instruction, your classroom notes around that, okay? And so we have themes about New Testament books, Christian living, and you can see the kinds of things that are listed there. They allow us to be more flexible, as we talk about, and offer more timely topics, okay? The Bible doesn't change, but the culture around us changes, and so we need to be able to adapt to that, apply the right principles to the right topics, okay? One of the notes here is the survey showed that many would like to study the book of Revelation, but it can be studied in any quarter where there are New Testament books being taught, okay? In the past, what we would do is we would buttonhole one quarter for Revelation, and then either maybe the teacher that we had picked out for that could do it or whatever. So this gives us a little more flexibility. And then as we talked about, if you have Christian parenting mentioned in the survey, if we have Christian relationships, you can apply that across the spectrum of classes and have applicable instruction there. All right, and then current themes, you'll see that in there. There's a list, in addition to the 5-year plan, there's a list of a catalog of classes that'll be offered as a part of that. Okay.
One thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just noticed missing on that slide is there is a theme that's Old Testament books and Old Testament topics.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay. All right, good. So this is, let's see, I think this is a slide from your database, isn't it? All right. Yeah.
Quit telling them how to.
So it's a tool that Mike is working on to develop how we can catalog things and keep up with what we've done in the past. And so we'll be using that, and then we can pick topics based off of that as we go forward. All right, and then this is just an example, like a spreadsheet example of like year 4, what we would look at for like summer, spring, summer, fall, and winter quarters, and then how the topics are offered there in that. And then you can see the color coding there that talks about the different topic group that those different classes come out of, okay? And so as the education committee goes through and looks at, as we go into each quarter, then you'll see things come out about that. A lot of times, you know, when you are asked to teach, we already have the topics and that kind of thing in mind for you to teach, that kind of thing. This is where it comes from. It comes from this plan, okay? So there is a little bit of rhyme and reason behind what we're trying to do here, okay? All right, and then as we mentioned earlier, if you have questions, there's an email address up here, education@madison.org. Send those questions in, send those suggestions in, send those comments into us so that we can take a look at those and make adjustments as we need to there. All right, how do you get a class topic covered? Send it to that email. How do I get put on a teacher rotation? Send it to that email. How do I get to a substitute if I won't be able to teach a class? Send it to that email. Gives us an opportunity to help with the logistics of things like that. One of the pieces of paper that you have is a teacher survey. And I want to encourage you to go ahead and fill that out today. Go ahead and start on that, fill it out. Notice that there are questions on front and back, right? So turn it over, make sure you get the stuff on the back there to fill that out, okay? And there's a couple of goals for this, but one of the things that we've, I want to relate to you a quick story about that I was talking to Brandon and Andrew, okay? And I asked those guys one day, I said, what do you like about the arrangement where you're both serving as preaching ministers? And there were two answers that I basically got from both of them. One of them is that it allowed them to get deeper into the topics that they covered, okay? And perhaps you've noticed that in their lessons. They go pretty deep, okay? The richness of the lessons that they're able to present because of the time they can spend on those lessons is very effective, it's very good. And the other thing is that they don't get so burnt out, right? And they have collaboration with one another, okay? So one of the things that we're trying to do, and if you look on the back of your survey, you'll see this, is to try to work more with mentoring with teachers, okay? And I see a lot of faces in here that are relatively new to this, okay? And so we want to really encourage you, especially if you've not done it before, if you've not been in a teaching situation in an adult classroom, find a mentor, okay? All right, and on the back of that sheet, you'll have an opportunity. If you have somebody that you like their style, you get a lot out of their classes, whatever, write that and we can pair you up with those people. And what we started to try to do more and more each quarter is to make sure that people have an opportunity to pair up with somebody. Not only because it makes it easier for them for both, because they don't have to teach every single lesson, every single quarter, or during that quarter, but it also allows them to bounce ideas off of one another. And the lessons that they do teach, they're able to go deeper in and refine that set of slides, refine the notes that they have, refine what they're going to say in those classes so that it's the most effective it can be. We really want to encourage that. How many of you have been here, just to show of hands, how many of you have taught an adult class before? Raise your hands. How many of you are new to it? Okay? How many are relative novices at it? Okay? Haven't taught that many. Okay? That's okay. That's okay. We are looking, we want to seek out people who are willing to do it, and we don't want to just throw you into the lake and say, good luck. Right? That's not our intent. The intent is that we want you to have an opportunity to come into this and get your feet wet and then get deeper and deeper into it as you grow as you learn, as you have an opportunity to work with mentors as you go through there. All right, did I miss anything else? I think that's the last slide. Any questions or comments for that? Yeah, go ahead.
Can you tell us what year we're in?
So,
We're in year, so,
go ahead.
so what we did is, if you go to the 4-year plan, we're in year 3. And so we're just gonna keep us being in year 3. So then starting, we'll be in year 4 next year. And one other comment too, the stapled sheet that I keep calling our class catalog, that's in no means the only topics they'll get taught. Those are the topics that have been on our list in the last 4 years, plus we're on our list to teach. So any topics that you guys would be interested in, the education committee are developing new topics, and then we'll put one of those in the theme. Also, I know what's important for many of you is if you look at the New Testament book study, we go through every book in the New Testament every 5 years. So you'll notice there'll be at least one New Testament book study every quarter, but then one quarter there'll be 2. There'll be one on Sunday morning and one on Wednesday night, just to make sure we get through them all.
Okay, good. Anybody else? Any other questions, comments?
All right, and then one last thing, Jason told me before he had to go. So all our presentations will be converted into PDF, and then we'll put them on the Facebook page for you to pull down those PDF versions. Also, all the sessions have been recorded, and so we'll put them in on the Madison YouTube channel, and then we'll make sure we send out an email when they're up there. So if you want to go back and review, or make sure that those who couldn't be here today, that they knew that link was there as well.
Okay, anybody else? Yeah, go ahead.
You want to share the slides from today's?
Yeah, question is, can we share the slides? I think that's.
Yeah, we'll convert them to a PDF, and then we'll email the PDFs out or put them on Facebook page.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, anybody else? Last call. Go ahead, Brent. Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna, as a connector leader, is there anything that we can do to increase the communication of what you expect as far as what next? I know we've got this now, but you know, as far as topics and teachers and stuff like that.
Yeah. So the question is there anything Connect Group leaders can do to help us get ahead of the ball game a little bit? So on the education committee, we're trying, and with the help of you guys, it's actually getting a little bit better, is to be a little more ahead when we introduce or publish, I'll say, the plan for the next quarter. Okay, and you'll notice down on the information hub, there's usually a sheet down there that has the plan for the classes there. So one thing to do is, as soon as that's available, grab that and take it to your class and say, here's the plan for next quarter, okay? And get people thinking about that, even challenge them to do a little of their own study, right? The idea here is that not only are classes supposed to be an impartation of information, but they're also supposed to be intended to be a launching point for individual study, for that person, or each person on his own, or families at home, okay? We don't want it to stop in the classroom. We want it to begin there and keep on going, okay? So encouraging that. The other thing is we again, keep reminding people, if this is something you have any interest in at all, please come see us. So go ahead, sign up. We're not going to throw you in the deep end immediately. We're trying to get to where we mentor people and start them out slow and allow them to get their feedback, see if it's for them. You may find out, oh, I love this. Or you may find out, it's not for me, okay? Either way, take the step to sign up, fill out these surveys. Make sure you fill out the surveys. Put down if you're interested in mentoring, having a mentor, whatever, before you leave today. Okay, Brandon, you had one?
I just want to thank you guys for putting all this together. It's been a good day. We appreciate all that you put into it and all you spend and all the work that you do on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, and we were talking about that earlier. We got a lot of you help here with this, and so we really appreciate those efforts to do that. Okay, all right, anybody else? Yeah, go ahead.
What's the summer studies?
I'm sorry?
Summer series.
Summer series, Jason, do you have the topic?
May 10th begins our first summer series. It'll be Jeff Abrams. His topic is what is discipleship? All summer long, we're looking at different facets of discipleship.
Discipleship.
Every Wednesday at 7.
Okay,
And then one thing about the summer Sunday series, so we're doing, it's going to be a generational study. So there'll be 5 teachers, each have 3 lessons. So you can either go to one teacher and hear the same lesson 4 times, or you can go to one teacher, hear their 3 lessons, and then go to another teacher for another set.
We would like your help on that to help get that out and build up the excitement. That'll begin on May the 7th, will be the first Sunday we do that. Our classrooms will be 206A, 201A, Echo Room, Fellowship Room, and Madison Room. We did this similar format last year where we did intergenerational to really try to leverage the collective wisdom of the class. And so we're going to do that again as well. There won't necessarily be in discussion groups every week or anything, but there'll be those 5 different areas for study. Much to Jeffrey's excitement.
and encourage people as you have an opportunity to talk, encourage them to be willing to go to different rooms, right? Experience a different class, right? You'll get a chance, there are 5 different classes. You'll get to experience 4 of the 5 during the quarter because each of those 3-week sessions will make up 12 weeks. Then go ahead.
I had one more comment on that.
Yeah.
Because we won't be in our Life Stage Connect groups, it will be a little bit more of a challenge to make sure that we are able to engage visitors and get their contact information. So if this room in particular will be kind of the tip of the spear for us, keep your eyes peeled for new folks that you don't know or recognize. And let's try to make sure that we still are able to engage with visitors and try to get their contact information so we can follow up with them as well. The Connect groups are really our most effective way of engaging new folks and getting them plugged in. So we want to make sure that we don't necessarily lose that element with this format.
Okay, good comments. Anybody else? All right, well, thank everybody again for being here. We're excited about the Madison teaching programs we're going forward. Again, if you have any questions, please let us know. Let's close with a quick prayer and then you'll be dismissed. Let's all bow. Our gracious Father, we're so thankful to you for allowing us to be here today. Father, we're thankful for your word. We're thankful for the light that it is to our path. And Father, we pray that each one here and those others who may not have been able to be here today that are interested in teaching your word to this congregation, we pray for their efforts. We pray for their spirit and their interest in this work. And Father, we pray that all of us would look to you, to look to see how your son taught when he was here on earth, to utilize those resources that are available to us, and to make every effort we can to partner together with mentors and mentees alike, proclaiming your word here in this place. Father, we ask your blessings on our efforts here and your blessings on each and every teacher here at this place. Forgive us of our sins, Father. Keep us in your care. We pray in Christ's name. Amen. All right, thank you.